Hello, my name is Nancy Love, and this is the Planet Peace Project. This is the heart I wear every single day of my life to remind me of the cats of love. More on that later, much more. Um, I am making this video today, and I'm making it public today for a specific reason. I believe that I will be safer if I announce what has happened to the world. Within the last week, I took offense at a particular video I watched on YouTube regarding nuclear weapon detonation. And although I knew that at times in the past, militaries of the world, not just the United States, but also Britain and possibly others, probably China, maybe North Korea, I don't know, but definitely Britain and the United States have both detonated nuclear weapons and then either exposed military personnel, people who couldn't get away, people who, according to their contractual agreements with those militaries, had no authority to save themselves from this experience, were ordered to either be present and nearby when those bombs were detonated, or they were sent into ground zero where the bomb had detonated within a few hours after it happened. Because the militaries involved were willingly, knowingly, purposefully exposing human beings who didn't have a choice in the matter to nuclear radiation to see how it affected them, how many of them would die, how quickly, how long it would take them to suffer from how many different kinds of virulent cancers and other disorders. How many people are going to die of cancer, and how long is that going to take for some kind of bizarre scientific bull bleep experiment of their own? And I have all my life, and at some times, been extremely proud to be an American citizen, and at other times, extremely ashamed. Well, a huge black man. Oh, let me get to the other point. I posted this thing on Facebook that had this brief comment. I posted the video that I took offense to, and oh, incidentally, the video also said that one and only one of these detonations uh, alone could literally and has already literally caused earthquakes all over the entire world. And that has really stayed with me, and it's really pissed me off because I'm a member of a species that builds stupid crap so virulently, horrifyingly deadly that it could knock one detonation could literally knock the earth off of its wobble. Keep in mind the wobble is the planet is not going around the sun like this. The planet is going around the sun constantly shaking. I don't know if you remember that from elementary school, but the planet itself is constantly wobbling. It's like it's got a tremor, and that is because the gravity of the sun is always trying to pull the planet Earth, the ground you're standing on, into it so it can burn it alive, and the centrifugal force, the opposing force, is constantly trying to fling the planet out into the galaxy. So every single moment that you've been on this planet, the planet itself is in this incredible dance between gravity and centrifugal force. And if either one of those forces gets the better of the other for a fraction of a second, by God, we're either going to all burn alive or freeze as the planet itself breaks up into chunks. Well, that's what nuclear weapons do. That's what nuclear bombs are capable of doing. They, and all my life, since the 60s and 70s when I studied this originally, I was told that we had at least 6 times the weaponry necessary to knock the Earth out of its orbit. I was told in the 1960s that if MAD, MAD, mutually assured destruction, ever occurred, and that's defined as one side launches some missiles, so the other side launches their missiles, and then everybody else, launches their missiles. And if multiple bombs went off almost simultaneously, that the planet could be so disjointed and confused from the laws of physics by that human beings have since at least the 1960s had it within their power to knock the planet out of orbit with its idiotic bombs. By God, I call myself the Planet Peace Woman. Yea, verily, I come in peace, but I am the single most outraged human being on this earth because I am so tired of living on a world in which a bunch of idiotic men are constantly spending as much as 20% of the whole world's resources on weaponry, when what we all should be doing is finding a way to get along. For God's sake, we literally have common ground. The common ground we all stand on, or in my case, since I'm in a wheelchair roll-on, is Earth. We have more commonalities than differences. Some of our differences are beautiful and necessary, and we have complementarity. If you're good at this and I'm good at that, then together we're stronger. Our differences aren't nearly as important as what we have that should unite us. Instead of trying to be united, we spend huge amounts of time and effort and money trying to figure out better ways to slaughter each other. Why? ¿Por qué? Why? Why does a species that builds things that could knock its planet out of orbit have the audacity and the sheer arrogance to call itself the most evolved species on any world? In its current state of manic acquisition, the worst thing that could happen to any world is man. I'm opposed to the population of either the moon or Mars or any other M-class planet in this galaxy until we figure out how to not pollute, pillage, and make war. Until the human species actually grows up and matures into something worthy of the space we take up around here, I don't think we should be allowed to get off world. Well, since I took exception to this idea that, number one, we're building weapons that, until I saw that video, I thought it would take mutually assured destruction to knock the planet off its orbit, right? But that video states that only one detonation has already occurred, which caused earthquakes all around the world. And I'm just so upset because a lot of people think, they know about Hiroshima and they know about Nagasaki. How could they not know about one of the greatest or one of the worst acts of terrorism that ever occurred on this world? Nagasaki and Hiroshima were not an act of war. They were an act of terrorism. And a lot of people don't realize that there have been literally thousands, plural, of nuclear weapons tests since then. Bear with me, people. I'm just getting started here. I'm going to make this video relatively brief, but I have so much to say. You're going to be hearing it. Hold on, please. I have an injury that causes me to leak cerebrospinal fluid out of my face when I'm really upset. And boy, when I talk about things like I'm talking about today, you'll understand why. So we got enough bombs to blow the planet out of its orbit. We've got bombs so extreme that even detonating one can cause earthquakes throughout the world. When the Russians detonated the Tsar bomba, Tsar bomba, years ago in the atmosphere in a very, very remote uh, place in the north, the shock wave of the Tsar bomba detonation traveled all the way around the world twice. The shock wave of the Tsar bomba went around the entire planet 2 times over. What are we doing here? The planet gave birth to us. The planet sustains us. The planet is alive. The planet, many of us believe, have consciousness. We are bombing the shit out of our own mother. How smart is that, really? So, I, saw the video that got me so upset, and I took exception to the government that I love. I love my country. But the government that I love exposed 18,000 military personnel who didn't have any choice in the matter to nuclear radiation. And when I posted some little brief comment about that on top of the video, when I shared it on Facebook, I used the term stinking stupid military. And I wasn't talking about the United States federal military. I was talking about the whole concept of militarism as opposed to peace. I was talking about every military on the face of the planet and all the people who want war to be perpetuated because it's the way they make their money. I have been told by people who know for sure that 4-star generals, some of them, want war because, after all, that's the way they pay their mortgages and their children's college tuition. Some people in the military don't want peace because if the world ever figured out how to grow up and show up and make peace with itself, they'd have to get another job. So, since I got upset over the fact that 18,000 people were victimized by my own country and exposed to something that has probably killed most of them by now, and used the term stinking stupid in front of the word military, this week a huge black man who was in, I think, the Army at some point, maybe the Marines, I forget, but I barely know the man. He's sexually harassed me over and over because he thinks I'm attracted to him, and believe me, I'm not. Because nobody without a moral center, no one without wisdom and psychological and philosophical evolution ever could be attractive to me. I don't have a physical type, I have a moral type. I don't care how nice looking a man is or how big his shoulders have become due to his workouts. I care about how advanced his wisdom is, how magnificent his compassion is. I care about how, does a man use the words like ethics? Or does the term morality and does the term ethics cause him to be ashamed? I'm not attracted to this man. But this hideously ugly thing has said to me that he is going to arrange for me to be gang raped by military personnel, and he looked at his phone and said that he's booking. He actually said this. He acted like he had an Airbnb the size of Kansas or something, and he said that he's booking a bunch of military people into this place where he can have them stay for a few days so that they can gang rape me for standing up for military people. How stupid is that? All I said was that no government, including mine, has the right to expose military personnel to nuclear radiation that's going to kill them. And instead of him walking up to me in my wheelchair and thanking me for trying to establish his rights and for trying to, although I can't stand up at all, trying to stand up for his rights and that of other people who happen to be in the military and don't deserve to die because of it, particularly at our own hands, that man threatened to have me gang raped. Now, I happen to know a lot of people in the military, and I know that the vast majority of them are really decent people. I have an acquaintance of sorts with Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I love Mark. And I love him because he had the courage to stand up to a potential coup d'etat. I have such admiration and respect for his courage and his dignity because he didn't help destroy the democracy in the United States of America, and a lesser man might have. A Machiavellian person in his position might have tried to help abnegate the results of the most recent presidential election. And then Millie has the incredible strength of character and plenty of courage. Later on, he's negotiating with the Taliban. Um, a lot of people um, criticized him for sitting it down at the table with the Taliban when he did somewhat recently, and I can't think of a more courageous thing to do. What sort of idiot thinks that we're gonna not have enemies by not talking, that we're gonna heal this planet by not talking to each other? People say, oh, you shouldn't sit down at the table and talk to your enemies. I say, yes, the only thing that's ever going to heal this world is if enemies sit down and talk to each other. Part of the Planet Peace Project concept, which, the Planet Peace Project is basically a series of videos I'm making on the internet right now. The education component is the only aspect that's going, but it was education, mediation, advocacy, training volunteers and advocates for a variety of causes, and celebration of the planet, the arts, the sciences that we have created here. EMAC, education, mediation, advocacy, and celebration. But the mediation aspect, in my mind, was to send mediators for free to any war-torn area of the world, whether it was civil wars across internal boundaries or uh, international conflicts. I wanted to send mediators instead of bombs. Nancy Love, had the bright idea to send mediators to sit down at tables and get people to talk to one another instead of blowing the out of each other all the time. I said, you have the audacity to think that I'm a member of a species smart enough to solve its problems with reason and words instead of bullets and bombs. Go figure. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one. So this guy not only threatens to gang rape me for um, standing up for his right not to be exposed to nuclear radiation against his will and better judgment, But he also started he started saying he was going to discredit and defame me, and he's going to claim that I can walk and I can't. I have not been able to stand up since 2017. I have not been able to walk since 2017. And total strangers have looked at my legs and go, "Oh, you've got this, or you got that, or that muscle is bunched up, or what? I bet your ligaments are calcified, or and some of these people, once two women at a grocery store, when I was sitting on a bench waiting for the bus, two women at the said, "Oh, you know, my husband had knees like that, and I can see that your legs are damaged, and that's so sad." And they were asking me, as recently as within a few weeks, a woman who's got a background in physical therapy took a flying glance at my legs. I knew her for 10 minutes. And she said, "I don't mean to get personal. I don't mean to be impolite, but I can see that your legs are blah, blah, blah." She just took a flying glance at my legs, and without ever seeing any x-rays, MRIs, any of my medical records, she started talking about the very visually obvious reasons that I can't walk. You, uh, People can see what's wrong with my legs. And this asshole, pardon me for using that word on YouTube, but this cretin started saying that he was gonna start telling people that I can walk when he knows for an absolute fact I can't. So I'm wanting to share this with the world today because I'm feeling really threatened, really very terrified and afraid, because all I did was try to stand up spiritually and morally for other people, even though I can't stand up literally at all. And I was threatened with physical violence and defamation and discrediting of my exemplary character. I am a brilliant and beautiful woman. I am a deeply moral human being with more integrity than the vast majority of people ever even thought about having. I have been told by FBI agents, people who've had 30 years in the Bureau, that they could line up 10 of their best people, and that I, Nancy Love, have more courage than the next 10 FBI agents put together. I have had military people who've been in battle, who've got scars and PTSD and all kinds of, you know, results physically and emotionally, psychologically of being in war. I've had those people know me, and they've said, "Even in your current state, Nancy, you're getting older. You've got no weapons training. You couldn't even get through your second class at Taekwondo. You can't stand up. You can't walk. But I would rather be in a foxhole with you than the next 100 people I know who have been trained, because you are a person of tremendous ability and courage." I have had people say that they would want me on their side in any fight against any enemy. And instead of thanking me for standing up for his rights, this huge, ugly man threatened to physically assault me with other people in the military, and then said he was going to lie and say I could walk when I can't. I'm done. I'm filing a lawsuit against him if I ever see him again. If he tries to harm me in any way, and I'm going to take his cohorts down with him, because I know exactly who they are. I know their names, I know their faces, and I know where they live. but this big black man who threatened to sexually assault me, because I don't think he and his other military cohorts should be exposed to nuclear radiation, and I'm strong and powerful enough to say so publicly. This isn't gonna happen on my watch, and this isn't gonna happen to me. I am never ever gonna be threatened by a coward like that man. He is a coward. He is the most repugnant, repulsive human being. He is not a man of honor. And if I had the authority to do so, I'd rip his military benefits right out from under him, because he doesn't deserve them. I do. I should get his pension. I should get his free medical care. I should get all the benefits that he's getting. Sorry. I was injured, as I said, and I've got cerebrospinal fluid leaking out of my face right now. I've always been honest on my YouTube channel. This is really raw stuff. It's homegrown and it's straightforward, and I'm telling it straight. I am good. He is evil. I am intelligent, and he is stupid. I am ethical, and he is immoral scum. And I am going to get him fired and arrested now. So, before I let you go, and thank you for your attention, I am going to let you know that before I published this on my channel today, and before I networked it on Facebook or anywhere else, I sent it to 2 Southern California law enforcement agencies, and I sent the link to this video to the FBI. I may also send it to Interpol and Homeland Security in the White House. I will not be treated like someone's, oh yeah, and incidentally, he called me his N-word. That man called me the N-word. And that's what I get for saying he shouldn't have been experimented on. Let me say this. I'm being prompted to say one more thing. My intuition tells me to say one last thing. Hasn't that idiotic moron ever heard of the MK Ultra program? Doesn't he know what the term MK Ultra stands for? MK Ultra means shame. Why didn't they just call the program SHAME? Shame. MK Ultra refers to a series of more than 100 experiments that the United States federal government did on mainly civilians in the 20th century. A lot of people think the program didn't really end when they said it did. But they did things to civilians who were not volunteering and not even informed of what was happening, just for the sake of figuring things out. And it was immoral and it was illegal. And the people responsible for the MK Ultra program should be in Guantanamo, convicted of war crimes and violation of international treaties against human indignities. Hasn't that big huge, ugly black men, hideously ugly black men. Ever heard of Muskogee? In Muskogee, Tennessee, the United States federal government, the government that he served while in uniform, purposefully, willingly injected syphilis into a bunch of, you guessed it, black men, didn't tell them what it was, didn't tell them what they did, and just let them go out, and they infected their wives, they infected their girlfriends, they infected their families, all kinds, listen to me, all kinds of people ended up with a deadly disease called syphilis. Why? Because the United States federal government used their lives and their health and their bodies to learn about disease vectors. Yeah, the government that I was born to and the government that I still somehow claim to love for some reason, they injected a bunch of people with a deadly sexually transmissible disease merely to study how it spreads. When unchecked and undiagnosed and unknown by its victims. So before that big, ugly black man says one more word to this little old disabled white lady who can't so much as even stand up anymore, because he's angry at me because spiritually and philosophically and morally I tried to stand up for his own rights. He needs to read about Muskogee. He needs to get a little bit of anger of his own. And if he ever threatens me in any way again, whether that's with gang rape or with discrediting and defaming me, I'm going to slap him in the face with my x-rays and medical records, all of which indicate I haven't been able to stand up for 2017. And I'm going to slap him with a lawsuit the size of Kansas. And I'm going to have him arrested for threatening a disabled elderly woman